So, good morning, everyone. We're very happy to be here and tell you a little bit about large-scale content creation with Drupal. We're using a project that we did in the past 2 years and try to give you some insights what we learned along the way. I'm Jonathan. I'm working for Leap, a digital agency in Switzerland, and we're doing quite a lot of Drupal websites.
And I am Tom. I work for the canton of Basel-Stadt, which is a smallish municipality in the northernmost part of Switzerland. And we've been working together for 2 years.
Yes, so Tom is the product owner on the client side from our perspective, and I'm the product owner on the Leap side for this project. And what we both have in common, we both worked in journalism before we went into the IT world. And that was quite important for this project because content was a very important part, and we both had our fair share of terrible CMSs that we had to use for different jobs in journalism.
So what do we want to share today? Obviously, the government is a very rigid environment, and our aim from the start, when we started this project on our side 5 years ago, was to do an agile project which has some of the hallmarks of modern digital stuff, and how we managed to do this in a rigid environment like government is. And those learnings, I think, or we think, can be useful for all of you who might happen upon working in similar environments. So what did we do? This is our new website. It's the website geared towards the residents of our canton. So people who want to do their taxes, want to know about garbage collection, or just if the Rhine is ready to be able to swim, can go to this website and find information there. It's a quite a large website with about Basel is a city with about 200,000 residents, and they do about 17 million page views per year on the old website, which was a Magnolia website. We don't know how much it will be this year. We actually hope that it's going to be less, because that is a signal that they don't have to search as long for the information that they need. So we don't want to retain people on our website, but we want to have them do their job quickly and go away again. That is our success rate. So we have about 3,000 pages in this website, which is down roughly 50% from the website we had before that. One of the aims was to really consolidate the content and have it in such a way that it's not bloatware and nothing is redundant. So everything we have now is really tried and tested and relevant. These 3,000 pages were created and are maintained by a fleet of about 400 editors. These editors, some of them work full-time in the system, but most of them work maybe once a week or once a month. So it's a very disparate group of editors that have to, and all of them have to be able to do their job with our system. A little background to our work environment. Some of you may have worked in government, some of you may haven't. But we have some peculiarities which have really big consequences on our way to do projects. One is, obviously, we have little market pressure. There is some, because in Switzerland, the cantons have some sort of rivalry and try to outdo themselves, but that's not a big market, I would say. So little market pressure means also little pressure to be efficient, to be innovative, to be fresh. Also, there is quite a small amount of risk tolerance in our environment. So whenever you want to do something new, the first reaction is a big frown, and you have to convince people why it's still a good idea to do something which is not the same as we have done for the past 10 years, But after some time of persuasion, mostly they agree that it's a good idea, and we will see how we did this in this project. Thirdly, our government is structured in 7 departments, and those 7 departments don't have a lot of interaction and much less cooperation. So there is a strong silo mentality, which is not very good for having a unified website which comes to the citizens as one thing. And this had to be addressed as well. So when we set out to do this, as I mentioned 5 years ago, it takes quite a lot of time to prepare such a project. So we had 3 years of preparation time and 2 years of really working on the project. But we started with a few principles where we said, okay, we don't want to do it the same as governments always do project. So we decided on using agile principles. The whole shebang, we work with Kanban, but it wasn't necessary, the methodology in detail, but just to be agile and not have the classical waterfall methodology whenever possible. So this meant that we will do an honest planning, that we won't do artificial deadlines that we know we can't hold up, but to really be realistic. And the nearer we come to a certain deadline, the more details we have and can communicate these details transparently so that everybody involved is on the same page and there are no bad or good surprises. Also, it was really important to us to establish a shared product vision so that everybody involved and even slightly involved knows where our aim is, where we want to go with the whole thing. And we don't have to explain every single decision to everyone involved, but they can really understand what it's all about. So this was our product vision, which seems obvious enough, but when we defined it 5 years ago, it was kind of a novelty, especially because of 2 things. One is that we stated that with the go live, which actually was 1 month ago, the website is not finished, but it's really starting, that the website should be constantly evolving and changing with the changing user needs. And the second kind of controversial thing at that time was that we wanted in a user-centered way. Our government was used to do things from the inside out. There is no market pressure, so we can do more or less what we want. That was the mentality. And we really had to explain to everyone why it's a good idea to take user needs into account and really align our decisions based on those user needs. After 5 years, I'm really happy to say that this idea has arrived in the government or in our places of government, and it's not controversial anymore, which is a very nice thing to have achieved. So, some outside perspective.
So I will give you a little bit the outside perspective. So for us as an agency, we saw this proposal. This was actually a public tender. So the canton published it and was requesting offers from everyone, basically. So everyone could apply to get this project. And let's say we read through that and we read this product vision and we thought, can they really do it differently? Is that really what they are able to do, or is it just like some nice words they wrote up? They wanted user-centered design, something that we push for in almost all of our projects. They wanted agile development, something that we didn't experience in the past when working with public administrations. And they even put in that tender document that they had the wish to use open source software. And for us as a Drupal agency, this was like almost too good to be true. Of course, there was one little setback. The whole thing should be with a fixed price. But we also took this challenge and it worked out quite nicely in the end. We're quite proud to say that we delivered the thing on time and also on budget. So it worked out in the end. It made us quite nervous, but actually we could do it differently this time.
So what did we actually do? On the backside, we will see the website in detail, but on a conceptual level, we had a Magnolia instance that was running for 11 years, as mentioned, and we were thinking about, should we migrate some content? How should we start? And 11 years is quite a long time, so we decided to just throw everything into the bin and start from scratch, which turned out to be quite a good decision. Also a little bit controversial, but I think it paid out. So content-wise, beforehand, the content was structured from the organizational perspective inside out. So people who wanted to know about garbage collection had to know which department is responsible for garbage collection and could then find the content regarding that. We turned this inside out. I identified from the get-go the most important topics, which were about 300. And we said those will be put in a separate navigational structure, which is the most important navigational structure that everybody sees when they come on the website, so that everybody who has some needs for a service just goes to that service and doesn't have to know anything about government, which is quite good. Still, the government itself, the administration, has some needs of communication, and those are addressed in an organizational part of the website, where there is much more freedom to them to build the sites as they want. The topic pages are very tightly controlled and structured. To do this, we had also to do some organizational changes. We had to break down those before mentioned silos in order to have a little team. A little is about 30 people, which we call topic editors, who were taken from all across the organization to be able to do these topics regardless of where they are in the actual organization. We had to enable about 400 editors with a lot of training. I think we did about 30 or 40 trainings so far, which always take 2 hours. And this process is still going on, which is just crucial so that they actually can use the editor and don't delete something by accident or do whatever. So that was also a big part of the project. Then we did a whole new design. We didn't really, we set out to do a design system as well, because that is modern. Before that, we had a 150-page PDF where everything was described, but in a very static way. And we said, okay, when we do this design new, we do it with modern day technology, which is a design system based on user-centered needs. And obviously, we threw out the whole technology stack we had beforehand. It was a Magnolia system. And we asked Leap to do their dream setup, basically, of which Jonathan will tell you more later. The project really was a success, not only because we were in time, in budget, in scope as well, which is not irrelevant, but the reactions of the people when we went live were overwhelmingly good. And it's not usual that when a government does something that you get unsolicited feedback, or when you get some of those, it's mostly negative. But in this case, it wasn't. People really wrote to us, hey, it's really beautiful, it's really nice, I can find my stuff. And that made us quite happy. Why was that? When preparing this speech, Jonathan and I sat together and thinking about what was it actually, apart from a big portion of luck, and it was the people working on it, definitely. At the get-go, we identified the most relevant stakeholders, as you do in every project, but we tried to really have a holistic view of this system and put also priorities on who's the most important to work with. Obviously, editors and end users are the most important because they will decide on the success at the end of the day. But on the second row, you have system engineers, business analysts, developers, designers, UX people, all those involved in the core project team. And in the periphery of these, and I guess in every big organization it's the same, you have also other stakeholders that really can influence the course of the project. So we had to deal with communication managers and their needs and requirements. We had to talk a lot to steering committees in order to get greenlit, to get the budgets we need. And being a public administration, we had to think about the feelings of politicians as well and manage those, which sometimes was a bit tricky, but I think it paid out because we had a lot of leeway to try out things that you wouldn't usually think a public administration can do.
So from our side, we realized quite early that we have two main user groups. So first, of course, the end users. We want to make the website user-centered, and we want to make the website as good as possible for people who are looking for information, who need their form, who wants to know when to pay the taxes, whatever. But what we also realized quite early is that the content will need to be created from scratch. So the experience of the editors is actually quite crucial to also make a good user experience for the end users. And that was when we realized that we will not be able to just go with standard Drupal node edit forms and give that to 400 people and let's hope for the best, that they will create awesome content. So we knew that we need to focus on the editor experience in order to get a good user experience. And we also need to have the editors on board with the project. They need to identify with the project because they spent like thousands of hours creating this content. And if they didn't do that, a go live would be impossible because in the end, a website without the content doesn't work. So we spent quite a lot of time to communicate to all those editors that this is serious. Like we actually do this new website and we actually do it in this timeline, and it's not like something that will come at some point. So we organized like quite a big kickoff event where we invited all of them in this very old room. We organized some roadshows with the different departments to also get feedback on their needs. We had a lot of meetings with stakeholders where we also got inputs and information of what they don't like or how the process should be improved, especially when editing the content. And one thing that was also important, we were quite transparent with all the timelines. So we didn't have like a shadow timeline, the honest one, and one to communicate publicly. We were always quite open where we stand, where we have some delays, or also where we reprioritized things. One example was that the phase of preparing the content for the website was almost a year. So the editing system and the whole like design should have been ready a year before go live, so the editors can start editing content. Of course, we also needed like the server and the backups, so content should not disappear at some point. And that was the main focus of the project for the first few months, to just make it possible for editors to start working on the content. And everything else was prioritized lower. And we also communicated this. So like people were asking, yeah, why is the search not working? Yeah, because we didn't do it yet. And we'll do it at some point. Or why is the garbage collection form not working? Because we'll do it later. And we also needed some openness to adapt. As always, things changed along the way. And you'll see some examples later in this talk. Another thing we did was we tried to encourage the editors and support them as good as possible. We created guidelines and a handbook that lives inside the CMS. So the editors can always look up, like, how does it work? Do they need to use the system? But they can also look up how the different paragraphs and components work. And they can also get some basic crash course information, like how do you write for the web? What is a good piece of content on a website and what is not? As mentioned by Tom, we did a lot of trainings. We also gave the option to get feedback on some pages, which was received quite well. So they could send us pages and we told them maybe this could be done differently. This looks very good. We had a Teams channel where people could reach out to us. Of course, there was an email address that could be used to report bugs or text us. And this was very crucial in this project, we built a new editor. We built the Blöckle editor to really care for this use case of people who are not using Drupal every day to create content. Maybe if you wonder what Blöckle means, it's a Swiss-German word, and it's basically a notepad in Swiss German is a Block, and it's also like the blocks, as the English word says, and we thought we're just throwing around little blocks of content, so this is a good name for the editor. A little bit of background about the tech stack that we used. We have Drupal 10 as the backend. We use the paragraphs module and the paragraphs Blöckle module to enable the editor. And we have a fully headless setup. So we have an Nuxt app that delivers the whole content and the whole front end. And we have the Blöckle editor that enables this front end experience for the editors. We use the GraphQL core schema module to make development easier and to manage the whole communication. So let's give you a little demo of how this actually works. So I am an editor and I'm working on the website of the Canton of Basel-Stadt. This is the front page. I can browse the front page as I want. I can click on these menus, which you can see. I can then go to different pages, and I can, of course, go to this demo page that was already created for me. And now, if I want to edit this page, I don't go into the node form of Drupal. I click on this button that says edit, like the different paragraphs of this page. And the first thing that we built, and that was quite important, was people told us, I don't want to start from scratch when I create a new page. I usually have other pages which I'm proud of. Why can't I just use those as a template? Or just give us a template with some placeholders so I know where I can start. So I have the option here to say like, okay, I want to search for a page that I already created, but I also have the option to import a template that was created beforehand. So when I import this, I see, okay, there is already some content on this page. Now, if I want to edit the page, I can just double click on the different elements. Here I can, for example, change the title. You can say DrupalCon demo page. Of course, I can change all the titles. What are we doing here? And edit this content as I see it, and I don't need to think about which paragraph with which settings do I need. We have the CK editor here, and one thing you notice is that we have quite a limited set of options. This was very intentional. We wanted the website to have like a streamlined look. We wanted to be consistent, so we limited the options quite heavily for the editors. But we have all the features we need, so I can write whatever text I want here. I can do lists and links and whatever I wish to post here. Of course, I can rearrange all the blocks on the website dynamically. I can also, if I have two text paragraphs, and you all know that use case, I have two text paragraphs next to each other, and maybe I want to have them in one paragraph, I can just drag them on top of each other and they get merged into one paragraph. So like these little features that really helped our editors to create this content. When I open the editor for the first time, I get this tour feature. So the editors who open the editor, when they arrive after the training, they get an introduction about all the features. And that was also quite important to give them like an interactive introduction to the editor. So all the features get explained. We have all the paragraphs on the left. We have a responsive preview. You'll see some of that more later. We can do undo. We have the status of the page. We have translations, of course, and many, many more things. And as an editor, I can also reopen this tour as often as I want. So it's not like a one-off thing. One thing which was also a quite important part was that we need to give the editors some options to style their pages. So it's not like just one behavior or one expression of each paragraph. So we had the option to include some ways of styling. So for example, I add a button here and I said like form for taxes, and then I can search for forms, just pick a random one. And then I have this button here. And now as an editor, I might think this is not just a navigation, this is actually a function, so a form. And we told the editors that if something is an active, an action that a user can take on the website, please use the dark blue button. So they can just select the other behavior and it's there. But they can't change the font and the size and the color, of course, however they want, because we still need to have like this consistent look. And many other page builders give you like all the options you want, and it looks very funky very quickly. Another thing that was quite important were how do we deal with images, and we have this quite nifty feature of the Drupal media library in the sidebar, and I can just search for an image, drag it into the page, and it's there. I can also drag and drop from my computer into the page, and it gets uploaded, and alt texts are generated with OpenAI, so we don't need to care about that as well. So we really have like a quick workflow for editors who just need to create their content. Another nifty one is when I copy paste the link from YouTube, I can just like paste it wherever I am, and the system recognizes, oh, this is a YouTube link. You probably want to embed a YouTube video, so it's already appearing in the sidebar. I can drag and drop it into the page, and then it's embedded. Here I can also select some different styling options, so I can give it a nice green background, or I can give it a blue background. So we have these really easy options for editors who can just create their content quite easily. We also have a history where we see like what we changed since the last revision. And we also have one option that is quite important to get feedback on the pages. So there is like a comment button. I can click on this comment thing and say, hey, please review this title. I can save it. It's very simple. It's not like something fancy where you tag other people or stuff. It's just saved on this page. If another editor comes on this page, she or he sees, oh, there is actually a comment. They can answer something, save it. They can also just say, okay, this is resolved. And that's it. But this was quite handy when we did the content reviews for the editors. They sent us the pages. We went through them, commented out what we did. They could open it again. So no like PDF exports and then marking stuff and then it gets outdated and stuff. It's all in there. It's quite simple. The learning curve is not too steep, and it works quite well. Another very fun feature actually is the responsive preview. So we have a live preview that we can open here. When I change something, it gets updated directly, so as good as it gets. But we also have this QR code. So if you want, you can scan this QR code on your phone now, and then you get like the instant preview on your phone. And some editors actually told us they do it when they edit. Maybe the server breaks, we'll see. They do this when they start editing a page. They have the phone in front of them and they see the website, how it looks when editing. So did you all scan the QR code? Okay. Didn't work? Basic auth? We deactivated it this morning, so I hope you get through. Okay, everyone in? Very good. So now let's say I change this title, put it down. Oh, I didn't drag it correctly. Then you should see in real time how the page looks now. I can also put up this YouTube video, and it gets updated instantly, I hope, on your phones. And that's a really nice, like, nothing to think about for the editors. They have the phone in front of them. They see how the users on mobile phones experience the website, and they can create better content, which was the goal in the end. So this is what we built with the Blockly editor. It was a very important part of this project, and we were very close to our user base. So we got a ton of feedback on their workflows, and they said, I don't know, this label is not understandable. Why can't I drag and drop images? Was actually in the first version not possible to like drag it from the desktop into the editor. So we added these features along the way, and always thought about like how can we add them and not confuse the other 299 users of this editor. And that was sometimes also kind of a balance to find when developing this thing. When I'm done, of course, I can publish the page, and then it's online. So this is the Blockly editor. We open sourced it, and of course you can use it. And we also created the Blockly starter kit. So you can basically, with these 4 commands, spin up a Drupal instance with the headless setup, with everything included, batteries included, and you have the Blockly editor running. You can test it. There is also on the website of the starter kit a running instance where you can experience it in real life, and we really hope that this also helps others with similar challenges to create content for their websites. I could switch back to the presentation mode, actually.
Yes, so as Jonathan mentioned, we had 1 year before go live where those editors were working in the system, and that year proved to be really, really important in order to have the go live go as smoothly as it did. Because one, they were our testers. They really reported a lot of bugs, but also they worked with us on fine-tuning the functionality of Blockly in order to make it as good as it was in the end. And what were the activities we, not the developers, not Leap, but we as a project team did in that year? And actually, I almost jokingly always say that about 50% of my time was spent communicating. We saw that stakeholder map, and each and every one of those stakeholders obviously needs time in order to understand what we're all about. So communication was absolutely crucial. We had weekly sessions with mostly every one of those stakeholder groups. Then it's not only just to throw the information out there and hope that it sticks, but also really show an interactive desire to have those inputs and to take their needs seriously. So we always said thank you, and we really were appreciative of their inputs, of their questions, even if from our standpoint they might have seemed a little bit silly. Still, you have to put yourself in the shoes of those editors, and they are not as deep in the system as we were. So it's really important to show that appreciation. And then it's not only appreciation for them, but also radiates some of the enthusiasm we felt when having the sprint review, for example. When John, who is sitting there, showed us something, we were like, whoa, it was really nice. And to have those moments also translated to the larger project and show them how amazing this all actually is. And I think that helped a lot to create a shared sense of pride in the project, which also translated then into quite a bit of effort those 400 people put into the content. Now, we were saying at the get-go that we wanted to be agile, and we didn't want this only to be on the methodology of the project, but also on the actual scope. So about a year ago, no, I think 2 years ago, ChatGPT was presented, but a little bit more than 1 year ago, the API was opened up, and one of the Leap founders is a very apt tinkerer with code, and he immediately saw the potential to do some stuff with that API, and he did a little prototype project where he scanned other government websites in order to make those contents interactive. And for us, it was very obvious that somehow we have to incorporate this in our project. So in order to stay true to the product vision of being a modern website and being an attractive website which fulfills the user needs, we saw the potential that technology had, and were able to use it actually in the project. Before we did that, we obviously, government is very risk averse. We had to make a lot of persuasive moves and talk to those steering committees and use our good relationships with the different stakeholders in order to get green-lighted additional funds, and also to take the risk associated with an LLM, which obviously can't be 100% correct in their answers. And this was a process. We had to do quality security measures, but at the end they were satisfied with our findings, and we could go live with it. And apart from being a novel way to access the contents of the websites, there is a second, to me, quite surprising benefit of this thing, which I will show you now, which is that Alva, how we call this digital assistant, is actually a Babelfish. It can speak all languages, and we don't have to do translations. So it's quite amazing that, for example, I can ask, when do I have to do my taxes? And this information is not available in English or language on the website, but still Alva goes, reads the German pages, and gives me an English translated information. This also works, my parents are from Hungary, so it works in Hungarian. We tried it in Chinese, and it just works without us doing anything. So these are effects that were very surprising to us, and everybody's quite happy about it, obviously.
So to wrap this up, we wanted to summarize some key takeaways. And I think the most important one is, and it sounds very obvious, but it was quite a ton of work, that the content and the content editing and the technology really must work together. So we had to give tools to a lot of people that they can work with on a daily basis, and not just hope that they will get how it should work, and really like think about how do we train them, how do we get those tools, this technology to them in order to have a good experience. Editor experience equals user experience. If you have a terrible editor, people will produce terrible content. If you have a good editor, people will at least try to create better content. And the last thing, really focus on the people. This was, in the beginning, it sounded quite obvious, but in the end, it was really like having 400 people working on a website, which is not their core job, is actually quite a demand for people who work in a public administration. And having those people on board, hearing from them after the go live that they are proud of the website, was really something that was quite an experience. And also being able to show this here, being proud of this website, of what we built, is just a very outstanding experience, and we're quite grateful for all the editors who helped making this possible, but of course also all the developers on our side, all of your people managing all these stakeholders, and of course in the end the Drupal community who built the tools that we could rely on to make this possible. Just a little information, we will host a BOF tomorrow around Blöckli and this whole editor. So if you're interested in the more tech stuff around Blöckli, how you can use it in your use cases, please join us in room 118 at 4:30 tomorrow. And with this, we have 5 minutes left for questions. Please shoot.
Is there some kind of content moderation? Maybe I missed it. So if you move the blocks around and then somebody has to approve it, or you have to save or something?
That was actually something that we thought will be necessary from the beginning. We were anticipating that this will be necessary. We started working and we realized it's actually not necessary to do this like in a technical way. People, when they need a review, they can know they can let each other know. They work together anyways, and will not do a technical solution for the content moderation. Actually, I think the workflow module would be installed, but we didn't use complicated workflows to do this.
So whatever you do is immediately live?
No, you have an edit state. So that's quite important. You have a draft state that you can tinker with and do whatever you want, and then you can publish it. Yeah. But we don't have approval workflows in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm work in Canada and work mostly with the Canadian government, so we do everything in English and French. Very curious about that assistant that you launched that will also answer in other languages. We have a lot of immigrants in Canada. Would be great to offer that support, but the government seems to be very risk averse in terms of what happens if it gives you a wrong answer. And I'm wondering if that's something that was explored and how you got around that challenge.
Yes, that's what we spent the last year with. Tom can definitely give you some more background information now or later.
Yeah, what we actually did also that year of pre-go live was crucial in that regard. We told our editors, hey, please go and try out the assistant in your field of domain and see how the answers are. And then we got about 1,200 of those answers, also with the quality control. And we tried to assess whether we have to adjust the technology or the content of the website, because most mistakes happen because the content is not written in a clear enough language. So it was also an additional feedback loop to the editors to work on their content to make it more clear, more understandable. And I would say we have a correct rate of 95%, which in most cases is good enough.
Maybe just one quick comment on that. If I'm not mistaken, you can actually see the link on the website to where the content actually came from, so you can verify it yourself very easily as well. With one
Definitely, that is also something. And from the user experience, I can maybe show you this when you are on the website. Then Alva lives down here. You open it up and we say a disclaimer, a la, please, here be dragons. We are not safe where we go now. And you can try it out. It opens in a new tab, which is also from the color separated. And there is this little beta version. So we try to warn people that it's really, really dangerous here. So...
So I just have a non-technical question. You mentioned road shows that you did as part of the process. Can you tell me a little bit more about what those involved?
We did actually 2 waves of road shows. One was for the project at large, where we went to all committees in government to tell them why we do this. So we showed them the product vision. We showed why the old website is not usable anymore and why we need to do everything anew, and just for them to understand what their people are going to be working on. So that was round 1. And the second round was done especially for Alva to take their latent fears about AI and show them why it makes sense that we do this in a very controlled and risk mitigated way. And also both of those roadshows were, I would say, about 20 sessions. And they took maybe half an hour to an hour, depending on the amount of questions that came from those committees.
And one aspect of this was not just to transport the information to them, but to also show face and like say, hey, we are interacting with you. If you have doubts, let us know and don't shoot us in the back using the steering committee. So like also having this like face-to-face interaction was quite important.
Was it clear from the beginning that you're going the road with the custom editor, with your own, and what part of the budget was planned for this? I guess. So I'm asking how much impact on the planning had it.
So we looked at different page builders. It was actually a requirement in the tender that we need some interactive way of building pages, and we were not convinced that the paragraphs edit form will do the trick. So we looked at, of course, layout builder and also other technologies, but we were not satisfied with what we saw. And so we decided before we handed in the offer that we will build our own solution. How much budget did we plan? I don't know by heart, but I will not say. I have no idea actually. It was a significant amount that we spent on this, but it was also not like overwhelming the overall project. And it was also quite important that we can open source it, which Baselstadt really supported. And now other projects are also using it, so we are also getting something back from the community. But I can look it up and we can talk later.
Hi, just wondering about content governance in the system you set up, because obviously we'd have a similar amount of editors and inaccessible images and documents is a big one. I was just wondering if you did anything to kind of combat that.
We did quite a lot of content governance when we worked on the content strategy. So there is actually a way how people work on content, especially in this theme topic section. They have a 4i principle and stuff like that. As mentioned, we don't enforce that in Drupal. It happens like bilaterally. We have some protected pages where only certain editors can work on. And we don't yet have protected images. That was something that came up very early, and we need protected images and we will die if we don't have them, which we kind of, let's say, deprioritized or maybe overheard, and in the end it was all right. But it's still somewhere in the backlog. Good. If you have more questions, please hit us up on Drupal.org or in the Drupal Slack, or just come to us tomorrow for the BOF around Blöckli. Thank you very much for joining.